Alrighty. What's going on, everybody? State of TNA Part 2. If you haven't watched Part 1 yet, what are you doing? Why are you watching this one? Go watch Part 1. Go. It's on my channel. Go watch it right now. Go right now. Well, don't leave yet. Wait, just wait. Anyway, I got State of TNA Part 2, and I got a guest this time. I tried to get Ryan on. If you guys don't know who Ryan is, the guy who does my TNA reviews with me sometimes. I tried to get him on, but he was too tired, couldn't do it. It's late at this point, so I understand. And he's got class in the morning, so you know, maybe next time, right? But this here is Casey. If you guys don't know, he was just on my Hell in a Cell review from a couple minutes ago. At this point, but we got the state of TNA, and I don't really know where I want to start. I think I do know where I want to start. So I think the biggest moment in TNA should have been Bound for Glory, but unfortunately it wasn't. So I think this is what has to be the biggest moment right now from recent TNA history at this point. The whole it happens and um, the Dixie Carter going through a table, or had you taken a break, or where have you been with TNA recently, or like especially over the New York taping span?
Uh, I've been watching it. I, uh, I feel like they almost tried to, or I shouldn't say tried to. They've been trying for years to take Dixie Carter and make her like the female version of Vince McMahon, and it just doesn't work. Um, the big thing, like you said, was when they put her through the table, and now she's been out, and I don't think it was cool to see it, but I don't know that it really did anything for the company except for getting her off of TV. I just,
Well, I mean that's what people were really hoping for, though. They were like, please get her off the screen. I know I watched a couple of videos and people like really just hate, despise Dixie Carter, which I mean, if you think about it, that's kind of what she wanted. She wanted to be that horrible heel. I mean, I don't know. I think I want to even touch on the state of the championships in this company as well. But I mean, right now, like that was the biggest moment, and I don't know. It would have been more shocking to see if they wouldn't have spoiled it like they did a week in advance. But I mean, because it was like one of those things that I thought I would never see again. Like that's just how wrestling has been. It hasn't been. It's kind of been soft core, I guess, to what we saw in the 90s and 2000s. It hasn't been the same. There hasn't been that edginess, like that edgy type of thing. Um, do you get a vibe that like so people who I know I don't know how many people you tell you're a wrestling fan too. Like how many people you're like, you should watch, WWE or TNA or whatever, just check it out or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I rarely ever find myself doing that. Um, but I know I get a lot of people that say, wrestling's so fake. Wrestling's so fake. How can you watch it? How can you watch it? And the weird part is they're the first person to say it's causing real world problems, right? Because this whole Dixie Carter thing, I don't know if you heard what I heard, but this Dixie Carter thing was like it was something about it was supposed to be like this domestic violence thing. As soon as we got the whole Ray Rice story and the Adrian Peterson stuff like that, like it was supposed to be, oh, wrestling's promoting domestic violence. And it's like the first person who would say, this is so fake, this is so fake. Oh, but it's causing real world problems. I mean, what's your take on that? Do you think, I mean, I know it has an influence, but do you think, like, it's the source of, these real world problems that we see?
I mean, I don't think it is at all. You could almost say the same thing for movies. You can be like, watch a movie with like a terrorist in it and be like, oh, that's where they got this idea, blah blah blah. They shouldn't have movies like that. It's not Wrestling isn't making people do these things. People are doing these things on their own. It's not I'm not watching, I didn't watch Ambrose beat Rollins with a kendo stick and now I'm going to go out and do that to somebody I don't like. Like it's people who make stupid decisions at the time that they do it. It has nothing to do with wrestling. It has nothing to do with anything really. It's just stupid decisions that they make. And people will take that and it's something that they can use as ammunition just because they can. Just because they see it as something weird or different that they don't like or don't understand, so they're gonna say, "Oh, that's what causes this," and it's not. I mean, I don't have lots of friends who are wrestling fans, but the ones that I do have, we're the most down to earth people you'll ever meet. We're not crazy, we're not violent, we're not anything like that. So people who kind of say wrestling causes all these issues are stupid. They really are.
Yeah, like I don't know. It's I don't think it causes. I I completely agree with them. When I'm not gonna be the first one to go out there and say, "Hey, let me go murder somebody. That looks like fun." No, like it's ridiculous, man. Like I don't know. I don't have a lot of wrestling friends. I don't know if I have any wrestling. I have one wrestling friend, and the only reason he's my wrestling friend is because I was watching TNA one day and he decided to watch it with me. That was like the only reason that. Well, he was a wrestling fan before, but then he had veered off from it, and now he's kind of back to watching. He only watches TNA, and he only watches it seldomly. He doesn't watch it every single week or anything like that. But I mean, with this whole thing, like I said, it was something that was surprising. It was something I didn't expect to see. But do I think it? Do I think? I mean, seriously, like it makes no sense. Like, okay, they had the thing where they was like, put your boss through a table day. How many people went into work and said, well, I should just put my boss to this desk today? I don't think there were anyone who went to their work and really thought that. Like, come on now, like it just it makes no sense.
It,
Um,
well, and it brings me back to I don't know how many people know who Nancy Grace is. She's a news lady commentator, but a while back she was talking. She had Diamond Dallas Page on her show, and the whole time she was bashing how Chris Benoit killed his family, and it's all pro wrestling's fault that all these people, you know, kill their family because of roid rage, and it's just, I mean, yes, it happens, you know, it's gonna happen in pro wrestling no matter what. There's gonna be steroids, there's gonna be drugs, it's just the nature of the beast. But to say that one thing is causing all these problems is ridiculous and just stupid. And for the most part, those people I ignore. The people that really bother me are the ones who constantly are like, "Oh, this shit's fake, blah blah blah. This is stupid." And it's like, I don't go into these people's houses while they're watching Twilight and go, "Oh, this is stupid. This is fake." We know it's a show. We're not dumb, you know.
yeah, I completely agree with that because I mean, like people will say that, and then like I think you got to give it a chance. Like earlier this year, I didn't look at wrestling the same way I look at it now. Like I didn't look at wrestling as I don't know how I looked at wrestling before. I really don't. Because right now I look at it as more of like a product. I look at it as more of like how people sell the moves, how people sell what's going on. I kind of look at it like how they kind of act it out. It's like kind of if you look at a movie and you say, okay, I'm gonna focus on this actor. How do they do this? It's just people say that all the time, and it's the same people who were probably the biggest wrestling fans in the '90s, and are just mad because it's somewhat different now.
Yeah, it's
On keep going, keep going.
I think it is a lot of the people who either. I also think it's some of the fans who are like the early John Cena fans who get hurt too easily. So as soon as you start to say, "Oh, John Cena sucks," being a lifelong fan, knowing what real good pro wrestling is, they just get offended and then they're like, "Okay, fine, I'm not gonna like this. This sucks. This is stupid. This is fake." People, they're just they get their feelings hurt too easily and then they turn on it. Yeah.
Um, I actually got this question from one of my viewers that tuned into one of my videos, and she was one of the live viewers, and she left a comment. Um, and I know me and Ryan had weighed in on this. So, who's your favorite TNA wrestler right now, um, or you could say you could go with who's your favorite TNA wrestler of all time compared to who's your favorite TNA wrestler right now? Because I know if you think about all time, you got all the originals who aren't really there as much anymore or at all.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going all time, I'd have to. It'd be either between Chris Sabin or Alex Shelley. I really like them separately, but then I also like them together as Motor City Machine Guns. As of right now, it's kind of hard because there's not really. I don't want to say there's not really established superstars, but their roster is so thin, and I don't want to be one of the guys who says, "Oh, my favorite superstar is Jeff Hardy or Bully Ray," because yes, they are TNA superstars, but they got their start in ECW, WWE. I see them more as those guys. Um, but as for I don't even know really. I could say Eric Young because I he's good in the ring. He's a good worker. He's been there since the beginning. Um, and he's also he's one of those kind of comedy wrestlers that you can still take seriously. He's not like a Rockstar Spud who I feel like they're just using as comedy. They're not like Santino Marella who always was just comedy. But I don't really know.
Personally, for me, in this, I don't know if I really touched on all time. I know I said right now my favorite is EC3, and that's gonna actually get into my next question. But I'll explain real quick why, just in case you guys weren't watching then. Um, right, EC3. I saw him. I was like, I looked up EC3's name, and I was like, Derek Bateman. I've heard that name before, and I looked it up, and he was actually used to be on NXT, and I was like, oh yeah, that's where he came from. And then I started watching videos of him in NXT, and I started to be more and more impressed, just because I was like, okay, I like how he's getting a somewhat of a new start here. in TNA. And I like that he can do some good work in the ring, but he's also good with the mic. Like he's good. I feel like he's really good off the top of his head. Like they'll go with the "you can't wrestle" chance, and he'll be like, "I disagree. You can't wrestle. I'm pretty good." You know, it's just it's great, man. I like EC3 just because of who just I think he's built so much on his character from the first time he's been there, and I think in WWE he didn't get a lot of talking time anyway, and with him being like the company, he's basically the not the face of the company, but he's that's who they want to be the face of the company. That's who Dixie Carter wants to be the face of the company, kayfabe wise. So it makes I like the way he's kind of came into that character.
I, I'm glad that he was able to come to TNA and get that chance that he obviously wouldn't have gotten in WWE, because WWE still is, the big guy, the Brock Lesnar, the John Cena, and I feel like TNA, you can succeed being, average size guy. You don't have to be big, muscly guy to be a top superstar. So I I wasn't a huge fan of him as Derek Bateman. His character was kind of interesting to me in NXT, and I wasn't that big of a fan when he first came into TNA because I wasn't really sure what they were going to do with him or how long it was going to last with him being Dixie Carter's nephew. But he's kind of grown on me. I'm kind of interested to see what they're going to do with him and Rockstar Spud. Uh,
Rockstar Spud actually looked. I thought he looked pretty good in that match he just had. With the tag team match they had, I actually thought. I mean, I hadn't. I I don't know what happened to me between like aces and eights to like Magnus's title run because I actually I watched during Magnus's title run, but I don't remember the end of aces and eights. I remember the start of it. I don't remember the end of it. I remember the whole funeral thing, but I don't remember like in between that in between portion. I don't know why. I just don't. I never really stopped watching TNA. I think I kind of got busy on Thursday nights or something like that, and that's what happened. Um, I don't know. All time? Oh man, all time. I think I'd have to say AJ Styles, and I think that's an obvious one because AJ Styles was just ridiculous. Like just what he does in the ring is just ridiculous. I'm actually gonna go watch the AJ Styles versus Adam Cole match when I get a chance. They fought in the Ring of Honor. I think it was All Star Extravaganza. I think it was. I'm actually gonna try my best to figure out some way to watch that match because I heard that was really good. But I don't know. AJ Styles was just crisp in the ring. I don't know if he had that much of a character as far as on the mic goes. But if we're talking about in the ring, I mean, AJ Styles was that guy. He was the face of the company. And then like I know a lot of people were like, what are they gonna do? AJ Styles not there anymore. Like, and I think they've done a good job of moving on with it. They did a pretty good job of kind of just moving ahead with it.
yeah, and I also feel like those last couple months where he was in TNA, they almost didn't know what to do with him. He had that kind of, I don't know, I don't want to call it anti AJ Styles, but he was wearing the black and kind of the not the typical AJ Styles. I
Yeah,
just
because they completely changed his whole moveset.
Yeah, yeah, like it was like it wasn't AJ Styles, it was somebody different. And I don't know if they just, realized that his contract was coming up and were like, you know what, screw it. Let's just try this, and if it doesn't work out, oh well, his contract is out or what. But I'm almost glad his contract did run out and he is in Ring of Honor now, because I feel like, you need you can't be in the same company forever. You gotta, try something new, and I feel like he could work better in Ring of Honor right now. Because I don't, because I mean, we're doing the, state of TNA video, so obviously there's something going on with TNA where something needs to be overhauled and fixed. So better him not be there right now, and maybe he could come back at some point, but you know, him being in Ring of Honor is kind of a good place for him right now, I think, especially with them kind of losing a couple of their bigger superstars like Sami Zayn, El Generico, and Kevin Steen. For a while there in Ring of Honor, they were the two of the main guys, and now they're in WWE. So they needed somebody to kind of take that role. Even though Ring of Honor does have a bunch of guys who could be the face of that company, whereas TNA doesn't have that. I don't think WWE does have that, but they don't realize it.
Yeah, it's TNA right now. I don't know if they really have a defined face of the company. I think if I would, who I'm hoping is gonna become the face of the company, and win the world title very very soon. Although Lashley's title run has been pretty dominant, and we'll get to that when we get to the titles in TNA and how we feel about those. Um, as I think Bobby Roode, man, Bobby Roode's been there since day one, and just he's just getting better and better. Just the way he is. He may not be the greatest worker ever, but I mean the match he had with Lashley, especially once they got MVP and Kenny King out of the way, was really good. I thought. But I mean, I'm thinking maybe Rude could be the face of the company. I don't know who else would be. I think EY doesn't fit the mold per se, but I think EY is a good worker as well, and he's over. And if you go with but if you go with Rude, Rude is I mean he's practically he is that face. Like he is like he's one of those. I guess I mean he can lie for someone else, but he's kind of a throwback type of dude.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I almost want them to sign somebody new and have somebody new be the face, because if you think about it, most of the guys who could win the title have already had the title once or twice before. And if you keep doing that, it turns into another John Cena where they're going to have like 16, 15, 16, and we don't want that. But then again, they don't sign, or I don't feel like they sign as many new superstars per se as like WWE does. I feel like they just take old superstars from like WWE or TNA or ECW and take them in and try to do whatever with them, and it doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean it really sucks because TNA just they don't have the funds, and that's really the part that's hindering them a ton because they don't have enough money. Like they shouldn't have paid Hulk Hogan like they did. That's why they probably couldn't sign AJ Styles back, um, or Christopher Daniels or Kazarian, whatever. Like, they just don't have the money to go out like WWE. I mean they just come out there and just doggone just give it out. Like they got so much money. It's not even funny just because of how long they've been a company. They're still a big time mainstream company. If you listen to someone who doesn't even know anything about wrestling, what's the first wrestling company they're going to refer to? WWE. A lot of people don't even know TNA is a real company. Like, I mean, I don't know. It's interesting to think about that. It's kind of tough for them to sign new people when they really don't have a ton of money to just throw out at people. That's why they sign a lot of people to part time gigs and stuff like that too.
It sucks even when you think about all the legends that they brought in, to think how much money they had to pay, they wasted on them. Like, Hulk Hogan, how much money they had to pay him. Sting,
Bischoff.
yeah, Bischoff, Sting, even guys that are still there, probably like the Hardys, the Dudleys. How much money are they spending on them that they could otherwise? Because I mean, don't get me wrong, like I was a huge Hardy Boys fan back in the day, but even when you've watched the last couple matches that they've had, they're not even a shadow of what they used to be. The You have Jeff Hardy trying to do all these high risk maneuvers anymore, that he can still do them, but I don't know how good of an idea it is for him to do it at his age. You know, one of these times he's gonna come off and really hurt himself, and it's not gonna be good for anybody.
So this is the next question. Speaking of, Jeff Hardy's, the Dudleys. Well, that's not what I wanted, but I'll add in the last one down here. Basically, do you think all TNA superstars, not all of them, but the majority of them are just WWE rejects? I mean, you got Tyrus, Bruce Clay. You got EC3. You got you got a nice little bit of them. Dreamer.
I I don't necessarily want to say they're WWE rejects, but I think TNA definitely has scouts at the WWE headquarters or the arenas, waiting for superstars' contracts to run out. Because you're right. It seems like as soon as a WWE superstar's contract runs out, TNA jumps right on it. And I don't know necessarily that that's a good idea for them either, because they're going to waste money right there too. Um, just with like Tyrus, aka Brodus Clay, I did. You could disagree with me if you want. I didn't think he was that good of a in-ring performer anyway. I, they just gave him this stupid gimmick and he danced, and I just don't think he was that good in the ring. So for TNA to sign him, I don't know that that was a great idea on their part. Um, but I mean, there are some good things that they've done. They signed the Wolves. They're not from WWE. They're from Ring of Honor, but that's one thing that they did do good. Problem is they don't really have a good tag team division anyway, so it's kind of like what's the point of signing a great superstar if that division sucks, you know?
Yeah, with this topic, I take another approach at it. Um, I look at it as okay. So WWE takes not WWE, TNA takes the superstars that WWE didn't use correctly, or maybe WWE didn't allow them to get to their potential, and they try to push them to their potential. Like I think of guys like EC3 who may and Tyrus as well. I didn't get to speak on Tyrus before because he wasn't in TNA at that point. Tyrus as well. Tyrus was supposed to be this big bruiser type of guy, and then he starts dancing with Tensai. Like, I think a lot of times what TNA does is, they see these guys that WWE used to have, and maybe I feel like sometimes the creative team and sometimes the talent evaluators they see that, you know, okay, so this guy's got some talent. We could use him in our company. He's not getting used well here, so why not try to pick him up? I wish they would, um, as much as people would probably hate it if they did, I wish they would pick up Drew McIntyre. I really loved Drew McIntyre. He kind of was the chosen one and then thrown into the 3 and B.
Yeah, I mean, and there's guys that WWE has either their contracts have run out or WWE has cut that I wish TNA did pick up, like Evan Bourne. WWE cut him because he wasn't smoking pot. He was something else that wasn't illegal, but WWE cut him anyway. That was one of the great superstars that they had, one of the high flyers that they had, and I thought him and Kofi Kingston were an awesome tag team. I feel like if TNA picked him up, they could have done good things with him. But he is one of the guys who can go to like Ring of Honor and do good. He can go to any indie circuit and do well too. So he's one of the ones that has plenty of options. So,
Yeah, I don't know. It it's kind of a back and forth little subject because you know you can say that they're rejects. You can say that they're terrible. It's just it's a tough one sometimes because I know some of them, you know, you can think about it in that way. Like I know a lot of people would probably think that Hardy is somewhat of a reject, and I wouldn't say that. I think TNA gave Jeff Hardy another chance because with WWE he wasn't going to get another chance, and I think TNA if they're going to sign WWE guys, maybe they should stay with the low key guys, and not literally low key. I mean like the guys that weren't used for. I mean, well, low key wasn't used correctly in WWE, so I mean you can get with those guys who people don't really know too much about.
yeah, I mean, and I also think like who's going to be the next reject? Not again, I don't want to use the term reject, but who is WWE gonna try to give a push to and then give up on and you know not use? And it scares me that they might do that with like Seth Rollins. They might do that with Dean Ambrose. They might do that with Sami Zayn. Any one of those, if that happened and TNA picked them up, I think that would be a great thing for TNA. I think that would definitely boost them. Um, but then again, they could just go back to the independent circuit too. So I think a lot of these guys that WWE isn't utilizing still have a lot of open doors that they could go to. You know, it's not a guy like John Cena where, and I was gonna do a video on this to see like because I was wondering, when John Cena finally can't go anymore, I always felt like he's gonna be one of those wrestlers who still goes to like indie shows and tries to keep up his gimmick, way past his prime. Um, there's guys like that who don't have other avenues to go, but we'll see when the time comes who is the next reject.
Yeah, I really hope it's not a guy who's not, who's just who's really talented, especially. Um, I mean, I don't know if you guys know, but excuse me, Del Rio actually got released not too long ago. I don't know if you guys. I mean that was like probably 2 months ago now. It was pretty nice little bit ago now. But I know he got released for conduct detrimental to the company or something like that. He got in some kind of altercation or something. I don't know if you guys, because I mean, obviously we haven't been seeing him, so that's what happened to him. If you guys didn't know.
I didn't even realize that, but I almost feel like he was one of those guys where if you didn't know that, you wouldn't really notice him gone because they weren't really doing anything with him anyway. You
Yeah,
know?
people said he was getting stale.
Yeah, he was definitely.
Um, my next question is about just mainstream wrestling and it just as a whole compared to independent scene. So I'm saying like So basically, our two mainstream companies right now, I think, would be WWE and TNA. And the reason I'm saying they're mainstream is because they have that official TV deal. Um, and this is like comparing them to like the indies, New Japan. I guess you could put Wrestle One in there. Um, Ring of Honor. That's just a couple that I thought of off the top of my head. If you know any more, just put
Yeah,
those in there as well. Um, but the next question is mainstream is watered down, or this next statement. Do you think mainstream wrestling is watered down? Because I started watching Ring of Honor just recently. I actually watched one of their pay per views before I ever watched their actual show, their actual like weekly show. And when I was looking at it, it actually comes on ABC. I think it's Sunday night. No, it's Saturday nights, or it's like Sunday morning at 3 a.m. Like it comes on at some ridiculous time. I just kind of recorded and then watched again because I can't stay up that late on Saturday nights. But basically, I looked at it and I'm like, and I've heard people say this, is mainstream wrestling watered down? And I thought about it. I said, well, it's got to be a little bit because the guys on the indie scenes don't have anything to lose. The guys, they don't have a TV deal to uphold to. They don't have to appease what their TV company wants them to do. They don't have to sit there and try to, keep it. They don't have to keep it within the realm of the where the FCC can't do anything with. You know what I mean? Where the FCC will put strikes on them and stuff like that. Like it doesn't. I don't think mainstream is watered down per se, but I do think they're kind of hindered a little bit because they have to be careful with what they do on TV. I mean, it's like I mean, you can go on the internet and look up something ridiculous, but that doesn't mean you're going to see it on TV. So that's just kind of how it is. I don't think it's watered down, but I think it is kind of hindered because you have to kind of appease those TV companies so you can continue with your TV deal, and you're not really known that well unless you're on TV. Uh, I know a lot of people use the internet today, but you know what I mean. Like, a lot of people also, when you're flipping through the channels, you're not gonna find Ring of Honor unless you're up at 3 o'clock in the morning on Saturday night. You're not gonna find New Japan Pro Wrestling. Like, it's just not gonna happen. What do you think about the statement that mainstream wrestling is watered down?
I think in a way it kind of is, but then again, when you look at WWE, for example, I think I'm not going to say that it totally killed it because WWE is still obviously alive, but I think the PG era critically hurt WWE. I mean, I don't. I mean, we don't need huge bloody matches, but they've watered it down so much that, and even I was watching an interview with uh, I think it was the British Bulldog's son, Davey Boy Smith or something like that, or something Smith. I don't know. But he was saying, like, talking about stupid rules that WWE has, like in a match you can only go up to the top rope twice. Um, you know, you can only do a pin. I don't know. It was just stupid, and but then again, like you're saying, unless you stay up till 3 a.m. or unless you scour the internet for videos, you don't have the opportunity to see the alternative, which is indie wrestling. And I think a lot of like WWE and TNA fans kind of need to see that to give them a kind of a breath of fresh air. Because I mean, compared to what we're getting now in WWE and TNA, the indies are amazing. You know, I wish I could see more of it.
I mean, and people, people have said, I know I've watched some older videos with TNA, some of their older matches, and they're like, I wish TNA was like this again. But I mean, you got to think about it. You know, that's like the Asylum days. They're not gonna get back to there unless they're off of TV. There's no way because you can't, you can't do all that stuff and people, it's not the 90s anymore. It's not, the early 2000s anymore. You're not gonna see that type of crazy stuff on TV and stuff. You're just not. Like that's just how it is. Um,
Yeah.
it's unfortunate, yeah, but
I I think like the Asylum years and the Attitude Era are very similar in the fact that, for the Attitude Era, they had to do that because they had competition with WCW and ECW. So they had to do that too. Right now, I don't think WWE sees TNA as really a threat, so they
yeah,
don't.
there's no competition. They're really like, I mean, you can go and watch ROH and say, well, Ring of Honor is so much better than WWE, but if you
They don't
can't
have the
get
contract.
those main fans, that main base of fans that watch WWE, those millions of fans that watch WWE every week, you can't get them over to Ring of Honor, then they won't ever know.
Yeah, I mean, I guarantee if somehow Ring of Honor got a TV deal, WWE would have to, you know, step it up. And the same with TNA. They People want them to go back to the Asylum days, but they're already on TV. They have that contract with Spike. They have that TV deal. They don't need to do that. They're not fighting for anything. And I feel like that's almost hurting both TNA and WWE because they don't have something to fight for. So they're kind of getting stale. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this topic is similar to the I know people were debating about Madden versus ESPN NFL 2K5 for a while. I don't know if you ever have heard about that debate, but basically what was going on was people were, they were comparing Madden, like it was like Madden '05 through Madden 13 to like ESPN NFL 2K5 and how great that game was and how, you know, when there's no competition, it doesn't change. When there's no real competition, like right now, I think EA Sports has not the TV deal, but the NFL contract to actually make NFL games. So they can't really, they don't have that competition right now because 2K can only make basketball games or well NBA games. So they don't have that competition right now, and that's why it keeps. I mean, I guess recently it's kind of changed, but that's how it. That's why it seems to stay the same all the time because if there's no competition, you have nothing to, you have nothing to step your game up to anyway.
Yeah. I almost feel like it's the same with the WWE video games. For a while there, they were kind of getting kind of boring, kind of stale. And now that 2K is taking over it, I'm getting more excited because, you know, 2K obviously has to, blow it out of the park for them to keep WWE, happy because, if they come out and make a shitty game, they're not going to stay with WWE for very long. I'm sure they have a contract for however many years, but, obviously they come in with expectations because they have the 2K NBA games and everything like that. So, um, and I think almost feel like Madden games need to do that too. They need to kind of get something that spices them up a little bit because it is kind of the same every year, and for some reason we still get the games.
It's the only option. I mean, like if you want to play a football game, it's your only option. It's the same thing with wrestling. If
Yeah,
you want to play a wrestling game, it's your only option. You can't. I mean, if you're gonna play it, like
yeah,
and it sucks sometimes, but like it's your only option. Like with mainstream wrestling right now, it's not our only option. As long as you know about it, you can go watch it with any type. I mean, not even just mainstream, just wrestling in general. Like if you know about it, you can. I mean, you go on the internet, you can find it. Like,
yeah.
Next we're gonna talk about the different divisions and how we feel that the talent, the how important is the championship, just overall what we feel, how we feel about the different divisions in TNA. So I'm gonna start with the knockouts division. Um, you can actually go first if you want to. Um, I'm gonna be right back.
Yeah, I mean, Knockouts division I feel like is a step above the Divas division in WWE, but still, I feel like wrestling fans are in a rut where they just automatically assume women wrestling equals shit. And it's
Or bathroom break.
yeah, and to me, it's kind of it. It makes me sad because I remember going back to and this is going back to WWE, but back when we had feuds with Lita and Trish Stratus, those were awesome. Back when we had China was awesome. It broke the mold of the typical cat fight kind of divas or knockouts wrestling. Uh, and yeah, they brought in Havoc, but I don't know how well that's gonna work. Um, I feel like it's almost a kind of cheap knockoff of like China or a cheap knockoff of um, I think her name was it Karma, um, diva that or knockout that TNA.
Yeah, it was Karma or Awesome Kong is what they called her.
Yeah, Awesome Kong, and
Maybe
then
even maybe even Beth Phoenix esque, honestly.
yeah, it almost feels like it's too just a copy of those. Um, and even some of the knockouts that used to be really good, like I used to really like the Beautiful People, and I feel like they're just kind of thrown into stupid storylines now that aren't doing anything for their career.
And where's ODB? She's been gone forever.
Yeah, I, I don't know. I wasn't even thinking about her. Uh, they need to get more. I mean, they have a couple new knockouts, but I don't feel like they've done anything with them, really. It's still you know it's still the same title picture. It's still just basically the beautiful people fighting over the title.
Yeah.
I mean,
And Gail Kim.
yeah, they have Gail Kim who is a good worker in the ring. I'll give her that. But I don't know. They definitely need to step back and kind of rework their knockouts division, in my opinion.
Yeah, this is once again a problem with the, and I think this will probably be mentioned during all the divisions, honestly, and it probably could be applied to all the divisions. It's just where the roster isn't that big, right? The roster's not that big, so they can only go but so far. I don't know where ODB is. I don't know if she's still with the company because I think we see her every once in a while, but I just don't know where she is at all. I know they showed a one night only thing where we had some new knockouts, but that's one night only. That's like that was taped so far in advance that they're probably gone by now. Um, I don't know. It doesn't. It just the knockouts division is okay. When the knockouts division, like when Gail Kim's in the ring, I'll tune in. When Taryn Terrell's in the ring, I'll tune in. When my girl Brittany is in the ring, I'll tune in. But other than that, you can keep the rest of them. And Brittany, by the way, I know you're watching this video. You better stop messing with Samuel Shaw, darn it. You're mine, mine. I don't know. Speaking of Brittany, did you catch those pants she was wearing on last Wednesday? I don't know if you caught them, but I caught them.
Yeah, I caught him. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't know what they're doing with that Brittany and Samuel Shaw storyline. I don't know.
I mean, they're both just really weird, and I had actually forgot that Brittany turned heel until she got with Shaw, and Shaw kind of turned heel too. Because I was like, oh yeah, I forgot she turned heel. But with the Knockouts division, I mean, there's just not a lot. There's not a lot of depth there. They kind of do go with the beautiful people a lot. They go with Gail Kim a lot. Um, One thing I do love about TNA though is I'm not sure about the Knockouts division, but I know that you know we haven't gotten that 15-time world title reign. I think the most they have is like 4 or 5 with Kurt Angle being the longest reigning world champion. I know I checked the world champion reigns because I was looking at Ring of Honor and I realized that the most one person has held their world title is only twice. So I was like, wow, like that's pretty. Like that means they're really spreading around a little bit. And with TNA, it's basically been Kurt Angle been the with the most, but like it hasn't been a ton either. Like there hasn't been a lot of people with like a ton of reigns like either.
And that's the thing with like Ring of Honor. Like if you went and talked to a specifically WWE fan and said, "Well, the most superstar in Ring of Honor has held the title is twice," they'd be like, "Oh, well, that must be bad." But it's because they do spread it around. When you're in a company like that, it's equal opportunity. If you work well, you get a chance at the title. You'll be thrown into that sort of picture. I feel like with WWE, you can try work as hard as you want. Unless you fit that mold, you're never gonna have a chance to be WWE champion, and it sucks because that's everyone who laces up boots and gets in the ring to train to be a wrestler. That's their dream. I don't care if you say, "Oh, I'm specifically going to be an indie wrestler." Everyone's dream is to get to the top, which is WWE, and be the WWE champion. And it sucks that, for a lot of people, that's not an option. It doesn't matter how good you are. But I feel like, at least with TNA, you do have more of a chance. Like Eric Young finally got a chance to be the champion, which I was happy for. Um,
And people were really upset about it. Like people were like, "Oh, they're just copying Daniel Bryan." And when people said that, it makes sense. Don't get me wrong, but still, Eric Young was the most over guy in the company. Like they're going into these. I think this was like right when they were going into the New York tapings, right when people were really complaining about how bad TNA was, and they give the belt to the most popular guy in the company at that point, and he's earned it as well. I mean, this man's been just a lackey like for the longest time, just man of a million gimmicks. He looked like Damien Sandow when he was first started out. So I mean, it's just it doesn't, I don't think there was anything wrong with him being the world champion, and it was credible. Like I mean, he was a credible champion. He was more credible than Magnus.
yeah, I think both Daniel Bryan and EY were credible champions. They were both good workers. They, were both been in the business for years. They deserved it. You know, and they were more interesting than like a Magnus was. The Magnus title reign got boring real quick, at least for me. It was just
It was the same thing over and over and over and over again.
yeah.
It
It,
wasn't even. I mean, it wasn't even credible. Like I mean, it wasn't even like I wouldn't even be like I couldn't even go tell my friend, dude, this dude's the world champion, dude. This guy's the world champion. I couldn't. I mean, like, if I had a a wrestling buddy, I wouldn't even be like. I'd be like, I don't even know what this dude is. Dude.
It
Terrible.
was just the way they did his gimmick. It was like the typical I'm the British heel, I'm better than all of you Americans.
Yep. And he didn't even have a home fan base. They went to England and he trashed everyone there too. So it was like,
It just didn't make sense at all. You know, at least with WWE, when they've had the few, British, uh, faces of the company, or not faces, but top guys, when they go over to UK, they're like, "Oh, finally, I'm home, back to they don't trash their own country," and he did that, and it didn't make sense to me.
all right. Next we got the tag team division, and I think the current champions are the Wolves. Yeah, the current champions are the Wolves. Which they're a very good tag team. People really, you know, I think you got to separate what you hear on the mic sometimes from what you see in the ring. The Wolves are, I would say, in mainstream wrestling especially, they're the best tag team, and they may even be the best tag team right now. Period. I don't know. I haven't been able to watch the Young Bucks recently, and I know people are lobbying for them. So I don't know what you think about the best tag team right now. Period.
Well, kind of off topic, you mentioned the Young Bucks. I remember one of the best tag team matches in TNA I've ever seen was a match between the Young Bucks and Motor City Machine Guns. It was one of the, and I wish they had tag teams like that back in TNA again. Those like high flying, fast paced, exciting matches. But I I was really excited when TNA signed them. Um, I was surprised that, well, not so surprised because WWE has done stuff like this before, but they got a tryout match for WWE and WWE didn't take them, which I thought was a huge mistake on their part. They could have done awesome things in WWE. But at the same time, TNA signing them, I kind of equate it to I've been watching the NFL season, um, and the Jets just signed Percy Harvin, and it's kind of like, yeah, you signed this great player or great tag team, but if your team sucks, what's the point of signing one great player? It's not going to change anything. You have to kind of, and I think it's kind of the same as what TNA did. You signed this great tag team, but your tag team division sucks right now. What's the point of putting them in there when they're not going to have anything to do? They're just going to end up being one of the guys who just sits at home not doing anything because there's no other competition. And that's why they had to have, you know, the Dudleys and the Hardys versus they didn't have anybody else to do anything with.
I mean, and that was a fun like passing the torch type of thing. And they put on some really good matches. It's with a ton of replayability. Those matches were probably matches of the night, and we even got some world title matches sprinkled in with those matches, which were actually I thought really good matches too. With the we just came off of that tag team title series, and I really enjoyed that, and I that was kind of temporary too. I mean, I think even that was kind of to appease Spike a little bit and appease the New York crowd a little bit because the New York crowd knows about them and they're TNA has what 3 tag teams right now: Bromans, who I love, uh, Bragness, and the Wolves. I actually thought they were gonna do something when they had Willow. When they had Willow, I thought they were gonna do a Willow and Abyss tag team for a while there, but they didn't go through with that. And then when they brought the Hardys back, obviously, that was done. There is a new tag team that's gonna that I already know of that's gonna come up here soon. And it's James Storm and Abyss. I don't know how he got Abyss into the Revolution and all of that. I'm not sure what went down with that, but actually James Storm and Abyss are I'm not gonna spoil too much for you, but because I know I hate being spoiled myself. But they are a tag team, and I guess they'll be together here in the next little bit. I'm not sure when they're gonna put them together, how they came about of being together. I'm not completely sure. I just freaking happened to stumble upon it on Wikipedia by a complete accident. I thought they were gonna be in that tag team title tournament, but they weren't, and I was just confused. I don't know how they're gonna do that. Um, I mean, with the tag team division, there's just not a lot of tag teams. They're just not. They don't have a big roster, and even with that tag team title series, like I said, I'm not title series, but the actual tournament, you know, it was just the same people. They just threw them in a bag. They pulled them out, and they put them together. That's kind of like what it was. There wasn't really any there wasn't any brand new tag teams. I don't think. Um, I mean, I think we even got the Hardys again, which I was surprised of. Because if you guys don't know, Matt Hardy is going back to Ring of Honor um, very, very soon. I saw that when I was watching Ring of Honor recently. They said, I think it was the Kingdom, they said he was coming back. So he's not going to be there for long in TNA.
Yeah. I mean, even with the tournament, they put like Samoa Joe and Low Key together, which is kind of just a random. I feel like they need to establish more permanent tag teams, not just randomly throw people together and see if it works. And
Yeah, and that's not going to last. Samoa Joe and Low Key not going to last. Samoa Joe's not going to win the tag titles anyway. He's the X Division champion. So.
yeah, I don't know. They definitely need to work on getting some more tag team. But then again, you got to go back to the money situation. They don't have a lot of money to bring in new talent.
Yeah, and also with this, partnership they have with Wrestle One, which doesn't seem to be going well from what I've heard off of Bound for Glory, but they could pull some tag teams from there, and we would never even know. Just be like, they came over from the Wrestle One promotion, like they got a partnership, so. Why not use the guys you got there? We're not going to necessarily know them, but I mean, we didn't know Sonata either. But Sonata is probably one of the best guys I've seen in the ring, or I guess the Great Sonata. Sorry, Sonata, my fault, bro. I mean to disrespect you like that, but I mean, they should definitely, do a little bit more. I guess with Wrestle One a little bit too. They had a tag team match at Bound for Glory with two pretty good tag teams there. They could have brought them in and maybe put them in the tag team tournament. Just be like, they came over from Wrestle One. They're trying to, get these TNA titles. You don't have to have a lot of explanation. Tag team tournament. Everyone wants the tag team titles. It makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I even remember back, early TNA when they had the World Cup and they actually had, you know, different wrestlers from different promotions from like Mexico, Japan, other countries, and I think they need to somehow figure out how they could do something like that again, where they get new talent in, you know, to kind of help them grow again as a company.
Yeah, definitely. This next one, obviously, I think you guys can narrow it down to what the next one's going to be because obviously we're going to leave the big division for last. So next we got the X division, which I really think has really kind of improved with the addition of Low Key being back and Homicide being back, and they need to throw Sonata back in there because he did pretty good with that. Aries is always nice in there, but he's kind of in the world heavyweight picture a lot of the times now too. That's one thing that sucks is like once they have this option C thing with the X division, it's like why if you think about it, when I get the world title, why am I going back down to the X division? I mean, I can give it credibility, but logically, it doesn't make any sense for me to go back down to the X division. Um, I think the current champion Samoa Joe is due for a world title shot soon because if you think about it storyline wise, he was supposed to get a fair shot. He never did. Then they just kind of threw him in the X division, let him win the title, and while it helped the division out some, but he still I'm still thinking about when MVP first came in. Did I say MPP? But MVP when MVP first came in, he had the whole um thing with MVP and he's supposed to get his fair shot. He never did. So I'm still kind of waiting for that. But I just went on a rant about Samoa Joe. You can go first though about this division in general.
I definitely they need a couple more guys in the division. Like I think Kenny King isn't really doing too much except for being the random mouthpiece with MVP. They can throw him in there, and they almost have to because you think about it, the X division is really what kind of put TNA on the map. That was what separated them from other companies. That there's no weight limits, it's no limits. It doesn't matter if you're a big guy like Samoa Joe or a little guy like Loki. Um, and I think they need more, of that kind of high flyers, fast guys, to get the show more exciting, to get people to tune in. Because, if you just have the same boring matches, people aren't going to tune in because they can just see that anywhere. They can turn on any Raw and see that. You got to give them a reason to want to, why do I want to tune into your show? Give me a reason. And the X Division used to do that, and they kind of fell off for a while, and they have been coming back, but they got to keep it going. They got to not give it up. And I feel like they've been doing it, but TNA has also been kind of doing stupid things too, like this thing with Rockstar Spud. Rockstar Spud could be a great, addition to the X Division, But then they brought back Shark Boy, which nostalgia factor, yeah, because he was an original in TNA, but all he is now is a dude with a beer belly and can't do anything anymore.
That belly is real. I didn't know he really had a beer belly. Like I just saw him sitting in the corner. I'm like, what? Wait a minute. The man actually has a beer belly. God, dude. He's great.
Yeah, I mean, he obviously hasn't been doing anything but eating chips and drinking beer.
And
I mean,
it's a funny play off of Stone Cold. I know there's probably the main TNA haters are like, oh, they're just copying WWE, but I mean it's just comic relief, comedic relief and all that. It's not they're not being serious. They're not gonna give him the world title and make him be Stone Cold. They're just
yeah,
obviously they're messing around with it.
yeah, and I don't know. I still don't know if they really needed that. You know, they had Eric Young, who can both be a serious competitor and still give comic relief. He's one of those superstars, like I was saying in the other video, where you know I can take him seriously and he can still make me laugh. But I don't know. I just don't know what they're gonna do with Shark Boy. It might be another thing where they're just wasting money on something that isn't doing anything for them.
Yeah. As far as the X division goes, I do think it's been on the rise recently. It seemed like for a little bit the X division title was gonna just become extinct and not be used at all. It's gonna just become the television title. Um, just for a little bit there, it kind of felt as if it was just gonna be, just there. There was gonna be X division title and someone's gonna hold it for a while, and then, you know, it was just gonna be just this random title that doesn't really get held on to. I mean, it just didn't make any sense because the X Division was what made TNA what TNA was. It really was. And at this point, it was looking better now, but at a certain point, it was like, the X Division wasn't being used. They should just use the X Division, every week, just somehow just push the X Division in there at some point. Um, I'm not sure if he's still here at this point. I don't know. I don't know if he froze or if he lagged out or not. I'm not sure. Let's see. Let's see if he lagged out. I don't know if he lagged out or not. Because he's definitely frozen over there. So, I don't know. We're going to kind of pause this for a second and see if we can get him back. There he goes. He lagged out. I'm going to try to get him back in here real quick so we can finish up here. Oh, I don't want to put that. All right. So, I mean, basically with the X Division, I want to try to and see if I can get him back in real quick. Yeah, so, oh, there he is. I think he's back now. I think he just lagged out a little bit. Yeah, seemed like I lagged out there. All right, so we're on to the heavyweight division. Yeah, so we're on to the heavyweight division, and the heavyweight division. I don't know if it really lost credibility with Magnus, but Magnus was terrible. Magnus was really bad as a champion, and he wasn't credible at all as a champion. If I think about Magnus, I'm like, was he even a champion? Like during his title run, I didn't even know this man had a finisher. Like I was like, what's this man's finisher? Because basically it was just Dixie Carter rolling. I'm not rolling up, but Dixie Carter distracting someone and then him winning, and it just wasn't great at all. With that, I didn't like it. And I think recently we've had some nice credible champions, especially with EY. Since then, I think has it just been EY and Lashley? Is that it since then?
I think so, yeah.
Wow. But I mean, I think we've had some good credible champions. EY was credible just within himself, and obviously he deserved it. He was a fighting champion. He was crazy and all of that with that whole thing he was doing, and and people were really getting behind it. And I think, unfortunately, I think a lot of people felt like it got a little stale, and I kind of wish it didn't, because I mean, I really do. I like EY, and EY does some good things in the ring. As far as Lashley goes, Lashley is just ridiculous. Like when the way they're booking him is like he's like just ridiculous. Like, and then if you go and he's doing the MMA thing at the same time, and I don't know if Casey, if you had a chance to watch any of his MMA fights since he's been in TNA, because I actually tuned into a couple of them, or the last two he's done, and like it's like TNA's writing writing the MMA fights too, because he just like destroys them too, and then just goes back to being the world champion. I really wish they would have let him bring the TNA World Heavyweight Championship with him. Oh man, like that would have been too epic if he could have been able to do that. Um, that would have been so great if he would have came out there. But then if he would have lost, it would have been like, oh. So I mean, like he looked, he looks really credible as a champion, and the MMA thing, and just if you just look at him, you're like, this dude is ridiculous, and the man's head is so big, he can sell those head moves really well. I mean, I know he freaking got hit with a DDT in I think it was a pile driver. It was Eric Young's pile driver, and he like bounced off the mat. It was it was crazy. But I think we've had a since Magnus and that we've had two credible champions with EY and Bobby Lashley. And if you watch Bobby Lashley's matches, he waits for. Okay, I thought you had froze out again. He waits for he waits for his opponent to make a mistake, and then he capitalizes on it. Jeff Hardy did that ridiculous swanton into the steel steps. Oh my, oh, that hurts me to this day. The way, like, oh man, he did that ridiculous swanton to the steps, and like Lashley just he speared him and ended it. Like it's crazy, dude. Like Jeff Hardy is ridiculous, but Bobby Lashley is basically a destroyer, man. Like, I mean, that's what they're building him up as, and it's gonna be weird when he loses because he's gonna lose eventually. And I think it's gonna be probably to Bobby Roode because that's the direction it looks like they're going in. Um, you know, so Lashley, he's as dominant as he's been. It's going to be interesting to see what they're going to do with the title next. They're going to probably give it to Bobby Roode, and it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to book him as the champion. So, what do you think about the heavyweight division post World Heavyweight Champion Magnus era? I guess, or even before then. I guess you can go into that too.
And I really like the EY. I kind of, for me, it didn't get stale. I think they could have done more with him. Just with how long he's been in the company, I think they could have given him the title longer. But, and as for Lashley, he is good. And I don't know who's copying who, like if TNA is copying WWE or WWE is copying TNA. But in some aspects, I feel like Lesnar and Lashley are just copies. Um, they're both, MMA. They're both, Lashley's the destroyer. Lesnar's the beast. It's kind of, typical, one company copies the other company copies, But I do
Don't you
like.
think TNA? I mean, I don't mean to interrupt here, but
No,
don't you think TNA kind of beat WWE to the punch here? Because obviously with Lesnar defeating the Streak, you were gonna get the Lesnar being the champion. I mean, well, yeah, eventually Lesnar was gonna be the champion, but I think that maybe TNA kind of saw that. But let's be honest, TNA really did an audible here with MVP when he got hurt. MVP got hurt, and MVP was supposed to become the champion. I don't know if you knew that or not,
yeah,
but MVP was gonna become the champion at that. I can't remember what pay-per-view it was. Sacrifice, I think it maybe I can't remember, but he was supposed to become the champion at that pay-per-view. It might have been Lockdown because I remember it was a steel cage match. Um, MVP was gonna become the champion that night. He was gonna beat Eric Young, and then MVP obviously tore his meniscus, and they gave the belt to Lashley, and I think actually it was a better move than giving it to MVP. Honestly, just the way he's been booked, the way dude, like I don't know how impressed I was with Bobby Lashley when he was in WWE, but I think he's been really impressive as the champion. He's even the matches have been really good. Like I went back and watched a lot of the matches he's had, and I think they've been actually really good.
yeah. I mean, I definitely think he's better than Lesnar. He can work a match better, and even if he couldn't work a match better than Lesnar, he's there. You know, he's not a part timer. He's not leaving and using MMA as an excuse to be gone for 6 months, um, which Lesnar does. It Lashley proves that you can do MMA and pro wrestling and still be at both. You know, Lesnar tries to make it seem like, oh, he has to be gone for so many months and then come back.
In defense of Lesnar, though, uh, it's probably a little easier for Lashley just because of how many tapings they do in the short setting.
Yeah,
And him being able to do that with Lesnar, he's already part time anyway, and then the MMA thing, it's a little bit different just with Lashley, just because they do so many tapings and over the course of a week. So it's still rough on your body regardless to do as much as both of these guys do. But I think Lashley probably takes a little bit more of a beating than Lesnar does, just because of the way his contracts molded and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, I wasn't really thinking about the tapings, but still, I I respect TNA a little bit more with their heavyweight division because their champion is there, week to week. We don't have to wait, and wonder when he's going to be back like we do with Lesnar, um, which I is one reason why I don't think Lesnar should be the champion. Um, for one, he has his following from his original run in WWE, and I think that's big enough where he doesn't have to be the champion to really get
And he
over.
defeated the streak.
Yeah,
That's yeah. I still can't believe it. Like,
yeah. I mean, he can just be a part timer without the belt and still be okay. Give it to somebody who's there, who it could benefit. Like it's not benefiting him at all. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I think we kind of knew he was championship material when he first came. I mean, you can look at the guy and be like, this dude's championship material. With Lashley, I kind of feel like Lashley kind of got slighted in WWE because he was in the ECW, whatever that was. And I think, did he win the World Heavyweight Championship though? I know he won the ECW Championship. Did he win the World Heavyweight Championship?
I think he was just ECW champion, but that was back when WWE did its own version of ECW and kind of shit on it, and
Yeah, I mean, it was crap. Like, it wasn't good. Like, and that's why I'm saying I don't know if he was really as credible as he could have been with WWE.
yeah,
Because that ECW, whatever that was trash, and I didn't even. I knew it was trash, and I didn't even get a chance. I don't think I even got a chance to watch ECW when it was what it was in the '90s and whatever. Um, it's I don't know. It's crazy, man. Because Lashley. Lashley kind of, I think he did get a little slighted from WWE because he got in that crappy brand of ECW. And no, I'm not, if you're, confused, I'm not dissing the original ECW. I'm dissing the, you know, re renovation or whatever. I don't even know what you want to even call whatever that was. WWE's version of ECW, I guess you could say. I'm, I just don't think it was. It wasn't a good look for WWE for one, and it didn't help Bobby Lashley. And I think now that Lashley's been a champion, and you kind of seen him put on good matches, he was more than just this big dude who, was in that crappy ECW brand, WWE back in the day. That's another one of those, oh, he's a WWE reject, but then again, he wasn't used very well in WWE. He was
Yeah,
just in that trash brand.
yeah. I mean, it's that ECW brand that they had was so bad. Like I can't even name 5 guys that were in that brand off the top of my head. That's how bad it was that I don't remember it. It was, and I think their ECW show was like maybe an hour, and it it was basically like NXT used to be, where it was recorded before SmackDown or before recorded before Raw. It was kind of like Superstars or Saturday Morning Slam, whatever. Um, they just didn't. They I think WWE saw money in the old ECW and tried to make their own, and you just can't do that. You know.
Yeah, I mean, and it was good at first. It was exciting at first because we're getting this. Oh, they're doing ECW. They got the originals. They got Taz. They got Joey Styles. You're like, oh, okay, this is gonna be kind of cool. And then they just completely changed it, and
Yeah, yeah. And then they had like the ECW originals versus the new breed, and it was just dumb. You know, it was a bad way to get over new superstars that didn't work. You know,
I mean, how many of those superstars are actually still with WWE? I don't think any of them are, honestly. I know they had Elijah Burke. He's not there. They had that dude that used to be in TNA, Monty Brown, I think it was.
yeah,
Um, Obviously Lashley.
they had that.
Obviously the originals and stuff like that.
Yeah, they had that one guy who I think his gimmick was like a vampire. I forgot his name, but I remember him. Um, yeah, there's a couple that kind of stand out, but not enough that they didn't last. You
Speaking
know.
of Elijah Burke, what happened to him? He was with TNA for a little bit. Looked like he was gonna be a big thing in TNA, honestly, and then he just kind of just went away. He was just gone.
Yeah, he. I don't know if he kind of disappeared on the indie circuit or what. I haven't seen anything of him. Yeah.
All right, so finally, we're just gonna go with our overall state. Like, do we think TNA is going in a good direction? Do we think it's kind of neutral? Do we think it's bad? And why do we feel that way? Or any final points you want to make about just TNA in general? Um, I'll just say I think TNA, is I think the Spike TV deal kind of put a lot of pressure on them to put on a good product. So that's why I think they have improved. I don't know if I've ever really said TNA was bad. I'm not some kind of like pro TNA. I never hate on TNA. And I'm not someone like that, but TNA does have a special place in my heart. They came to my hometown, and WWE never did that for me, so I can't really help it. Um, it's not really my fault. I remember I live in Virginia, so you can't bleed in Virginia or something like that. It's really weird. And Abyss was bleeding on his elbow, and everyone was scared because they thought they were gonna stop the match because he was bleeding on his elbow. They were like, wipe it off. Like it was great. But I mean, overall, I do think they're going in a positive direction. The main, my main concern with TNA is the limited roster. They don't really have anywhere to go new that's really new. Um, you know, Another concern would be the Spike TV deal. I know um they got the deal through this year, But, when it comes back up again, at the beginning of next year, what are they going to do then? Um, you know, I think TNA has had some really good pay-per-views this year. I think, from that first one until about Bound for Glory, they were really good. And don't get me wrong, I didn't hate Bound for Glory. The reason I actually kind of liked it was because it was different. It wasn't that pay-per-view we see all the time. Negatives to Bound for Glory, though, I just didn't, it's supposed to be the biggest pay-per-view of the year, but you don't even have your world champion on it. It's supposed to be the biggest pay-per-view of the year, but, you really didn't build it that way. Um, I can't, I think Bound for Glory may have been the worst pay per view for the year so far for TNA, and that's just because TNA has been so good with their pay per views this year. I don't know how you can really overcome that. And with the potential that Bound for Glory had, I don't think you can sit there and say, well, Bound for Glory, it was okay, and just really stand for that. Because I mean, honestly, if you think about it, Bound for Glory should have been pay per view of the year. Honestly, with what they could have had on Bound for Glory. I mean, and it probably would have fought with WrestleMania. WrestleMania was extremely good too, but I think. I mean, if you think about it just in general, they could have kept the X Division match the same way they had with the three way. They could have, if they could have put the tag team title series match in there, if they could have put the World Heavyweight Championship match in there, if they could have had a knockouts match with Gail Kim and Havoc, like that's a stacked card right there. Just those four matches that I'm thinking of off the top of my head. Like if they could have just, and I mean obviously a lot of it's not their fault per se because you gotta think about the injuries and stuff like that. They had some people injured at that time, so they couldn't really put the entire card together like that. But I mean overall, TNA is going in the right direction, and I just hope they keep it up. You need an alternative to WWE, and I think mainstream wise, that's what TNA is. Just it's different. They went back to the six-sided ring, and it makes it even more different. That's always a good thing. So, what's your overall state of TNA right now?
Well, first of all, talking about Bound for Glory, and I know a lot of people will disagree with me. I feel like maybe they shouldn't have necessarily done Bound for Glory in Japan. I feel like they could have still done that in the States and made it a better card. And then they could have still done a pay-per-view in Japan, but done it on just TV like they do with a bunch of their other. That way, a lot of fans that are kind of losing faith in TNA or new fans that are kind of getting into TNA could have seen something cool like that. And because not all of us, I know I couldn't afford the 39 or 49, whatever it was, to get Bound for Glory. So to see that free and then still have Bound for Glory be a pay-per-view, I think that could have worked better for them. That's just my opinion. As for the overall state of TNA, they do need to get more talent in there. They need with their contract with Spike is going to be, like you said, through the year. But then what are they going to do after that? They're going to have to find another contract or negotiate a new contract with Spike. My pros with TNA, one thing that I've always liked about them, and I don't know if they still do this, haven't been to one of their live shows in a while. But what was different about TNA is when they did back when they were still in Florida based, when they would do basically house shows. They'd still travel around, and I would go to the shows when they would come to my area. I live in Pennsylvania, so you'd go to their shows and the tickets were reasonably priced. They weren't like WWE where it's like, $50 from a nosebleed section. You could for like $50 you can get, first, second row. And then you paid an extra 50, which right there only $100. You could do a meet and greet with all the superstars that were at the show, which I thought was really cool. And I almost felt like, I don't know if you've met any of them, but I felt like the TNA superstars seemed more down to earth than like WWE superstars. Like, I mean, this was back when like Homicide and Hernandez were still there. And Hernandez is one of the coolest guys you'll ever meet. Like, he jokes around with fans and stuff. And James Storm is a cool guy to meet. They're guys that you could see yourself hanging out with. Having a beer with. Whatever. And I don't know that. Not saying that WWE superstars are not nice, but I feel like they're in a bigger company to where if you get a chance to meet and greet them, like I did at WrestleMania when I went to WrestleMania 29, it was almost like you got in your line, got your picture, shook a hand, then you were booted. You didn't get that personal one-on-one time, which you get with TNA, and I think that is with them being a smaller company than WWE still, and I think they'll always be smaller than. I don't think they'll ever make it even to WCW level. Just financially wise, they don't have the money. They don't have billionaire Vince McMahon or billionaire Ted Turner. They have Dixie Carter. um, but I mean, the main thing is they need to get more talent in there and come up with more new ideas, like they basically did with the tag team with the Hardys, Dudleys, and the Wolves. They basically did a TLC match, but they called it Full Metal Mayhem. They need to think of their own ideas, to set them apart from WWE. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. You know, it, they do need to have their own ideas. I wish they would bring back the King of the Mountain match. I really miss that. I don't know if Jeff Jarrett has that like trademarked or something where you can't use it anymore or something because they don't use it. I think they used to use it at Slammiversary or whatever. And I thought it was it was a unique idea. Like, you know, you go up there and you hang the belt up instead of going up there and I think they had like the penalty box if you got pinned or something like that too. I thought that was pretty cool. You know, TNA is full of unique ideas. I just don't know if they really use them all the time. The six-sided ring was unique within itself. I think actually Vince Russo came up with that, and I think it was Vince Russo and somebody else. I think it was who used to be the guy over there, Jim Cornette. I think maybe. I think it was maybe them two. They came up with that. They said, you know what, if someone's watching, flipping through the channels, they see a six-sided ring, they're gonna tune in. So I mean, you got to do stuff like that. You got to do something that's kind of different, and distance yourself. Now, don't get me wrong, everything can't be different because there's not but so many ideas in the world to even go with wrestling. So you know, I'm just there may be another part to this, maybe later on, way down the road a little bit. When TNA maybe changes a little bit more, or maybe just maybe some months from now after the next pay-per-view or something, that these are going to continue to come up because it's not that TNA's doing bad and that's why we have to talk about the state of it and all that. It's not that TNA's like going out of business and that's why we need to talk about the state of it. Basically, sometimes you just want to hear someone's opinion about how they feel TNA is going. You don't, it's one of those things. I'm getting tired at this point, so I'm rambling. But the Red Bull's wearing off. But guys, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you want more content like this, I mean, I'm going to do a video on the Ring of Honor. Their little, I don't know if it's a TV deal or not. I don't know if because they do it every week, so it's some sort of maybe even short-term TV deal they have with ABC right now. But I'm gonna do a video on that sometime in the near future. It won't be tonight because I'm done. I'm done at this point. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Give this video a like if you'd like. Share it, get it across the world. We're blowing up, baby. So get it, get it what we need it to get, man. Guys, if you're on the YouTube channel, go ahead and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later. I'll see you guys on Wednesday for the TNA review. I don't know if Casey's gonna join me or not, but I'll talk to him and we'll see what'll go down with that. Um, Once again, my Twitter is at beastmode133100. And I'll put his Twitter in the description because I don't remember it off the top of my head. So I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.